Want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this hour. I'm joined by Fast Eddie. Mike is away today. As many of you know, this will be our last Saturday broadcast. And certainly our last Saturday broadcast at 107.1 KVMV. For those of you who are new to our program, or for those of you that only join us on Saturdays, the station is going under new ownership, and they are going to be changing the format. What that means for America's Voice Now and for you is that you'll no longer be able to catch our show here. We will continue to broadcast America's Voice Now Monday through Friday. We are working on a couple of different methods for broadcast. Not the least of which is you'll still be able to capture America's Voice Now on a couple of different methods. One, you can always catch our program live streaming on our website, and I would strongly encourage you to participate with us in that format, because that's something that is easy for you to get to. All you got to do is go to America's Voice Now. You simply scroll down on the right-hand side. There's a big button there that says Watch Live. If you click that, it pops open a window on your screen and allows you to capture the show live in video. So you can you can turn your speakers on, put on a headset, whatever you like to do. In fact, if you've got a little Bluetooth connection to your computer, you can even turn it on and walk around and go get coffee and what have you. The other method is, for those of you who are not local or are local and still want to catch the show and don't have computer access, you'll be able to call the Liberty News Radio call-in line. And as you know, we are now distributing the program through Liberty News Radio. And you'll be able to catch our show, which runs at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. on Liberty News Radio. So the timing is a little bit different because they are based in Utah. And you'll be able to call in and catch the show live at the following telephone number. It's 712-432-6623. That's 712-432-6623. In addition to that, you can also, there's a secondary number you can call. Now, this is just a call-in listen line, so it makes it really easy. You can just dial in, and you can put your phone on your hip, put a headset on, and wander about. And, if you're calling on a mobile phone or if you're calling on a cordless phone from home, it is a toll call, so just be aware that you shouldn't call that if you pay by the minute for long distance. But mobile phones don't. And most home phones have some kind of a long-distance package on there. So the alternative number that you could call is 213-992-4323. Now, the 6 a.m. show will always be the day before's show, but the 6 p.m. show will always be fresh, and it won't be live, but it will be a fresh show. So also, Sam has a Roku channel. Excuse me. Sam from Liberty News Radio and Liberty Roundtable has a Roku channel, and you'll be able to pick up the program there as well. We're working on an application for your iPhone and or your Android phone, and we expect that we'll have that available to you relatively shortly, and you'll be able to then literally stream not the video portion, but just the audio portion on your phone. So you'll be able to capture America's Voice Now, whether you're at work, whether you're at driving somewhere or at home or whatever. It makes no difference. As long as you've got a mobile phone, you'll be able to capture that. If you are in a place where you can, what I would recommend and what I always do is wear a headset. I never actually hold a phone to my ear. I can't stand that. Not to mention, I've got one of those really stupid smartphones, and as soon as your skin touches the screen, it actually shuts the calls off. And so I find that the best way to do that is to wear a headset, either with a wire or a Bluetooth, and that eliminates all of that nonsense, because you can literally sit there and keep the phone on your belt and operate and do whatever it is you would normally do while listening to the program. And so we're working, and you can also dial into the listen line, or you can capture it on our upcoming application. And those will be available. I'll give you links where you can download those as soon as those are available. They'll be available on our website or also on our Facebook page, and we'll keep you up to speed on that. So this is our last Saturday broadcast. As you know, we do Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 9 a.m., and then the show repeats at 8 to 9 p.m. locally here. Then we do a 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Saturday, and with the station being sold, they're going to change the format. I think this one's going to Christian contemporary music. I disagree with the format. I think that America needs a good talk radio program, and this is the only talk radio broadcast network that seems to have any courage around here, because the other station on the AM side, on the other side of town, has refused to take America's voice. That's another mistake on their part. So whatever, that's their issue. It's their business. I have no control over it. But I will say this. Our goal, our mission, our message is this. America is on the edge of decline and collapse. We will fight it, no matter what, no matter where, no matter how. I have a couple of programs that I've been putting together. I've told you folks about AmericanPatriot.tv. That's a brand new website we're going to be building, and that site will allow not only America's Voice Now to be broadcast there, but also many other radio hosts who will be handpicked for their patriotic stance. No more water boys for the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. No more nonsense. It's time that Americans had a true channel to go to where they can get news and information that the Ministry of Propaganda is refusing to give you. And that's the truth, folks. They are refusing to give you the truth. They just licensed or legalized use of propaganda in the United States. But all they did was legalize a practice they're already fully operational on. They've been doing this for years because they own the Ministry of Propaganda, the mass media. They own NBC, ABC, CBS, NPR, Fox News, Communist News Network. They own them all. There is no source for news if you are a true American patriot. Everything you get is laced with propaganda or outright treason, except for America's Voice Now and other radio hosts. I'm going to tell you why, by the way, you can get why talk radio is the one medium that they cannot control. You see, radio is owned by, most radio stations are owned, 1, 2, maybe 3 stations by families, small businesses that own just that. That is their livelihood. That's what they do for a living. They own a couple of stations. They manage them in local communities around the country. The vast majority of radio stations, and there's about 10,000 of them, are owned by small entrepreneurs. Here's the problem. You can't herd 10,000 cats all at one time. And a lot of these American families and small businesses and entrepreneurs who own these radio stations are independent-minded, they're patriotic Americans, and they understand the value of true news and information. Yes, they need to make a living. Yes, they need to be in it for profit. But I got to tell you something. They're not beholden to some Washington group or the Council on Foreign Relations or the NSA for what they do. And they're willing and able to put up a show like America's Voice Now that will actually tell its listeners the truth. If you live in a community where you've got a local radio station, I would encourage you to send them to America's Voice, to our YouTube channel. Ask them to watch a couple of episodes and carry our show. Yes, they're going to have to be stalwart. Yes, they will have to be courageous. Yes, this is a polarizing show. Yes, this is a show that either you will love or you will hate. But America needs to begin to take a side. Americans and corporations and entrepreneurs and small businesses need to stand up and take a stand. This is their opportunity to do their part for America, the true America, the Republic of America, the constitutional founded republic that we know and we see dying in front of us. It is critically and urgently important that everyone who has any means whatsoever do what they can to help us restore this nation to a constitutional foundation. The treason that's going on in Washington and in state capitals every single day is so out of control, you have to be living under a rock as a caveman not to see it. It's impossible for you to open your eyes and hear any news broadcast, even that from the Ministry of Propaganda organizations, and not recognize what's going on. These aren't scandals by this administration. Scandal is too nice a word. These are blatant and open acts of treason, which are being perpetrated against the American people. And this is the betrayal and crime of every American citizen, and quite frankly, citizens of the world. What you see happening today, what's going on in front of you, what's going on around you, are crimes against humanity. The goal is a globalist, universal, one-world dictatorship broken down into regions, but all operating under the greedy hands of a small elitist organization, an oligarchy, if you will, that has nothing but your enslavement and or demise. If you are useful, you will be enslaved. If you are useless to them, you will be killed, or you will die of starvation. All you need to do is read Agenda 21's program. All you need to do is learn and educate yourself about what their programs are. This isn't tinfoil hat, folks. If you think this is tinfoil hat, look back at some previous shows I did before the Snowden revelations, before the IRS revelations, before the Benghazi revelations, before the Fast and Furious revelations. It's not tinfoil hat. This is truth. And you can continue to ignore it by saying, I don't believe in the conspiracy stuff. But it doesn't make it less true. It just makes you more of a fool.
Mike, for those people who think that this is just going to go away and they can just wish it away, it's not going to happen. They need to wake up now.
It's Fast Eddie, folks. He don't kick in often, but when he does, he means it. Here's the problem. What we have is a nation where, for all intents and purposes, every individual representative in our elected representative government has completely abdicated any level of responsibility that they had to their constituency. And that tells me that it's no longer a country which is the rule of law. You see, I'm going to give you proof. The lawmakers who just voted to uphold the NSA spying scandal and fund that, guess what? Wired Magazine. Now, for the record, Wired Magazine is they're no tinfoil hat organization. They're not liberal nor Democrat. They are about as fair-minded as you're ever going to find in the political realm. And they asked a group to do a study and an analysis, which is of who got money in their re-election campaigns and voted to allow the NSA to be funded. Here's the truth. Those who voted for the NSA funding to uphold it received double the amount of money in their coffers from the defense industry. Folks, that's bribery. Nothing more. You don't have to have a political science degree to draw them and connect the dots with a pencil. You don't. Overall, political action committees and employees from defense and intelligence firms such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, United Technologies, Honeywell International, and others ponied up millions of dollars in donations for a 2-year period ending December 31st, 2012. Why? The lawmakers who voted to continue the NSA Dragnet surveillance program averaged $41,635, whereas members who voted against it averaged $18,000. You got to be kidding me. You're telling me that these members of Congress sold us down the river for a mere 41 grand? Yes. That's exactly what I'm telling you. And the numbers don't lie. They sold you down the river for $41,000. Even less if you want to just take it as the difference between what they got and what the ones who voted against it got. Let's just round the numbers. 41 grand versus 19 grand. You've got to be kidding me. So for $22,000, both Republican and Democratic members voted to sell you down the river and allow surveillance to continue on your phone, your computer. Really? That's pretty shameful. I mean, that's 30 pieces of silver, folks. 30 lousy, stinking, rotten pieces of silver. And you know what? Like Judas, they should all go hang themselves. No, I'm not inciting violence. I said they should all go hang themselves like Judas. That's what Judas did. That's what traitors do when they recognize the error of their ways.
Mike, did they have to declare that money on their income tax? They have to pay taxes on it?
No, that's to their election campaign, which is tax-free, of course. Let's not mention that pesky little issue. Aerospace contractors, electronic contractors, shipbuilders, defense R&D, homeland security contractors, and defense-related services. That's the group that made up the donors. So they gave the NSA $600 billion, and they sold you down the river for $22,000. That's all it cost to bribe them. Now, you know, the fact that they only got $22,000, they'll stand up and retort very loudly, "We didn't do that because of those donations." Okay, so maybe you did it because of the brown bag you got, because they know that once you've taken the donation and you're already compromised. So they already identified who is compromisable and who's not based on how much they had to pay you to do their bidding. Congress is betraying you. It's called treason for money. It's no different than a spy who goes out and sells our secrets to the Russians or the Chinese, who are enemies of America. No different. They've sold their vote. They've sold our birthright for 22,000 pieces of silver. Yep, that's the truth. They have sold our birthright, not their birthright, our birthright, because they've also been promised a seat at the table of the phoenix that's rising from the ashes of liberty. That's their plan. There will be a phoenix of tyranny that rises from the ashes of the liberty that was America. They expect a seat there. By the way, woe to them, because when that day comes and the purge begins, they'll be one of the first to go. You know why? Because even traitors and treasonists and elitists who run this show are smart enough to recognize that someone who will betray their constituency for a crappy 22 grand is not worth having around. So their brakes will fail, or they'll have sudden heart attacks, or they'll hand out a piece of paper that says, these are the following 8 things we've got on you, and you're either going to retire or we're going to spill them. You see, once compromised, once blackmail has been accepted, it's never given up. And these people play for keeps, and they play in big ways.
Do you think, Mike, that these people, when they've done this, they think they're all right? But if you think about the people that they're actually working for, they take a look at these people as being stool pigeons. And
absolutely.
And they just turn around and let them do what they're going to do. And these people don't understand that they can't trust these people that are working for them. So what are they going to do with those people?
I'm going to ask you this. Just let's take it down a notch, a level, and tell me how a police officer views his confidential informant. You think he looks upon that person with respect?
No way.
You think a police officer looks at a confidential informant who's willing to snitch out his pals on where he's buying his dope or wherever, whatever his thing is, right? You think those police officers look at those confidential informers and treat them with respect?
No, it's just a matter of business. It's a matter
From
of
their
business.
perspective, they're using that person.
That's correct.
And they're just as happy to discard him at the end of the operation.
And they will.
And they will. In fact, they're going to say to that guy, you've helped us out a lot, but we still got to, we can't let you go completely, so we got to, we'll get you a short sentence, but we still got to give you a sentence. Really, folks? That's the truth. And that's how this is working. So if you want to draw an analogy that makes it a little less, it's like measuring the size of the earth versus the size of the universe. I get it, because it's hard to envision what Congress is doing. But when you look at it in this context, think about your average law enforcement officer and ask yourself, does he have any respect? Does he have any admiration? And does he have any trust in those people he uses as his personal rats to help him find criminals, bust them for drugs or guns or whatever it is that they're after? Does he? I don't think you'll find one single police officer or law enforcement agent who will stand up and say, yes, I respect my confidential informants, very much so. In fact, I invite them over to my house for dinner. Hardly. Hardly. They use threats and coercion to obtain what they want from those confidential informants who are considered weak. They are considered to be a source who is easily manipulated and nothing more. And that is exactly the role that Congress has taken on under the global elitists, under the oligarch. Who is the nebulous oligarch, you ask? Well, you don't have to look very far. You can look at all the banks that own the Federal Reserve. You can look at the Council on Foreign Relations. You can look at the people who pump big money into big politics. George Soros, the Koch brothers. These are, and that's on both sides of the fence. This is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. Both parties are traitors, and they are committing treason upon America. Both parties. That's the problem. The duopoly political system has finally shown its evil head, and they're twins. Don't you see? This is a Siamese twin, and the mask has come off, and now everyone can see the simple fact that both of these organizations are attached at the neck. We're going to take a break. This is the end of our first segment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now and at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. You can find every program that we do right up there on our YouTube channel. We encourage you to visit them. We'll be back in just a moment.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
If both had been black or both had been white or both had been Hispanic, I don't think you hear about this case. There's a sadness quotient to it, and then there's also a race-baiting quotient. And I would say the people who looked the least amenable to using it in the racist quotient was his mother and father, who seemed like lovely people. But there are a lot of people out there who airdrop into these things like well fires on a platform.
Weekdays from 9 till noon is the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks' best news talk, 107.1.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A gunman kills 6 people in a Florida apartment building before eventually being shot to death by a SWAT team early this morning. Among those killed, the parents of Shamira Piciotti.
I heard about 15 to 20 shots, and so I went outside and my neighbors were screaming that my parents had been shot.
Police stormed the apartment after hours-long standoff. In Cairo, clashes erupting between security forces and supporters of the ousted president.
They're taking place near the Rabb al-Adawiya Mosque, which is where the pro-Morsi Muslim Brotherhood vigil, if you like, has been taking place ever since Mr. Morsi was deposed as president. Now, the reports that we're getting in of numbers of dead are rapidly growing.
Tom Rayner with Fox Sister Network Sky News. So far, reports of dozens of protesters killed. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You don't even got to talk about it. I mean, it was insane over there. It was crazy.
Can you name that movie?
Born on the 4th of July.
It's a winner.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You can ask me that question. Who's your favorite radio station?
Who's your favorite morning show? But then it'd be a little arrogant if you would say, Cooper and Company.
All right. My favorite morning show is Cooper and...
Join Cooper and Company weekday mornings 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
And catch this week's movies at 7:35 with patriotic movies for this week's theme.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we'll kick off the weekend with mostly sunny skies and a high of 78. Overnight, it'll be clear with a low of 55. Sunday should be mostly sunny with a high of 79. We'll have mostly cloudy conditions Sunday night with a low of 61. There's a good chance of showers and thunderstorms on Monday with a high of 79. I'm Rod Tanner, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
We are back. In case you're just tuning in, you're listening to America's Voice Now. This is the second segment of our first hour. As you know, we've changed our format a little bit to just go straight to just do a full half hour in the first section of the break, and that's because we're currently sending our show to the Liberty Radio Network. And by the way, I encourage you to visit Sam Bushman's websites because there is an enormous amount of information out there to be read from Sam and his organization. It's libertyroundtable.com. That's libertyroundtable.com. And also the schedule of all the hosts that are sponsored there. And that can be found at Liberty News Radio, libertynewsradio.com. Make sure that you visit both of those websites. And when you get a chance, send Sam a message at libertyroundtable.com. Sam Bushman is the host there. Sam is an amazing man. He is I guess he's in his 40s. He is totally blind from birth. He has 8 children. He's never seen a single one of them smile. But he's a man who has a sense and an understanding of liberty that I find to be an extraordinary value. It's a national treasure because his belief is that liberty is the only foundation upon which a nation can be founded and built. And he is a strong believer in it. And he's a guy who believes that it's God, country, and family, the way most of us think. And I think you would really, really enjoy his programs and the Liberty Roundtable radio show. Sam will be one of our hosts on the new website that we're building for AmericanPatriot.tv. No, the website's not up, so you can write the name down, but you can't go there because there's nothing there. I own the domain, and I'm in the process of building the site now. It's AmericanPatriot.tv. And the goal will be to have multiple radio hosts who all stream their shows live, like I do, and to give you an opportunity to sample multiple radio folks who aren't necessarily broadcasting in your area. Because the radio stations around the country all carry the guys like Rush and Glenn and Laura Ingraham and Mark and, all of those folks, Sean Hannity. And my problem with them guys, and that's terrible grammar. My problem with those people is that they view this situation we're in and their role in it as entertainment. And I do not. I look at this as a mission of restoration. We're in a war here, people. This is truly a war. We're in a war against tyranny. We're in a war against treason. And these guys all, they talk about the issues, but I've not seen a single one of them come up with a plan that says, let's march on Washington, 25 million strong, and toss them out by the scruff of their neck. And that is what we have to do. I mean, we don't have an alternative at this point. We really don't have any other way out. You got even conservatives like Chris Christie who warn against the rising strain of libertarianism and tells us that it's dangerous. What? Are you kidding me? Libertarianism is dangerous? The founders would have had a field day with a comment like that.
It's only dangerous to him.
That is the truth. That is the truth. Truth was just spoken there, folks. You see, everywhere that you look, the truth is being hidden from you. We're not, we're not being educated. We're not being informed about what's really happening in our nation. What we're being told is completely outside of, or the antithesis of the truth. Did you know that the Obama campaign website from 2008, which was loaded with promises about transparency and about encouraging whistleblowing, has been taken off the net? You know why? Because that's evidence in the upcoming trial of the traitor-in-chief. Yeah, I said it. It's about time that Americans started to realize how far down the rabbit hole we have fallen. I mean, this has gone so far, folks, that we can't even begin to see the light until we acknowledge and admit that we are operating and our government is operating as a treasonous venture, as a small oligarchy of people who have, for all intents and purposes, committed a coup d'etat. A coup d'etat under the electorate rules of this republic. And Americans asleep at the switch is the reason why. We've allowed it. We've allowed that to occur. I did a story yesterday on blimps that would be flying over D.C. and cover a 300-mile radius around Washington, D.C. for surveillance purposes. I broke that story on the radio because nobody else is talking about it. But immediately they came out with a second story that says, don't be alarmed. They're really only hovering over there to stop cruise missiles. The hell they are. They're hovering over there to protect what's going to be the walled city of D.C., where every traitor who's been loyal to the treasonists will be protected from we the people. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. $2.7 billion we spent on these balloons. Yes, $2.7 billion with a B. They'll fly at 10,000 feet, and they'll be able to to cover a 340-mile wide area that will cover from basically the Carolinas all the way up to the edge of Canada. Niagara Falls, they say. But
$200 billion is actually really cheap because when you think about it,
$2.7 billion.
2.7 billion. Well, if you'll take a look at that, is they save money on helium because all the hot air comes from Washington.
Yeah, all they got to do is capture the exhaust coming out of the traders in D.C., and they could basically keep those balloons afloat indefinitely. I mean, look, folks, let's just recognize it for what it is. The country is operating completely outside of all constitutional limits right now. Julian Assange, and I'm no friend of his, I think, there's some people would say he's a whistleblower. I don't disagree in some respects, but I also don't think that I don't think that the way he did what he did, he could have protected those individuals that are overseas without disclosing their information and their names. But he's come out and stated that a truthful statement, that Obama is effectively rewriting the Constitution. And that's true. Obama's promise to protect whistleblowers, quote unquote, right on his website, has disappeared from change.gov. The folks from the Sunlight Foundation have noticed that the change.gov website, which was set up by the Obama transition team after the election in 2008, has suddenly been scrubbed of all of its original content. They note that the front page was pointed to the White House website for a while, but you could still access a variety of older material and agendas. Suddenly, the administration has pulled all of the interesting archival information. One of the pieces they pulled was their promise to protect whistleblowers. You know what? This administration is responsible for more whistleblower prosecutions than all the other administrations for the past 20 or 30 years put together. That's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? So they removed it. You see, they're rewriting history as they go. Because they know that to the victor goes the spoils, and that history is written by the victors. And by rewriting history, just like Hitler said, all you got to do is tell a lie. It's got to be a monstrous one, but if you say it frequently enough, the people will believe it. It's got to be a big lie. And the big lie is that we are operating as a constitutional government. We're not. And we haven't been for a very long time. Obama's not the first one to tell us this lie. He's just the last in a long line of traitors. There have been many, 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 many traitors over the years who sat in the presidential seat and told us these same lies. Mark my words that the goal here, folks, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the future. The goal of these globalists is to build themselves a walled-in city protected by blimps that give them a 300-mile radius of protection, to rule from afar, to implement Agenda 21 and the Wildlands Project, which would turn 50% or 70, somewhere between 50 and 70, you can pick whatever you want, it's way too much either way, into natural preservation land. In other words, it's got to go back to nature and all the people got to go. And keep us enslaved in small enclaves, small cities, small communities and towns, where the useful are kept as serfs and slaves. Those who are outspoken, those who are thinking, those who have any leadership capabilities will be purged. I mean, Look, Agenda 21 is very, very clear. A sustainable population, according to them, and this is their quote, not mine, is between 1.5 and 2 billion people. That means 5 billion of us are in the way. Where do you think you're going to fall on that list? First of all, if you're over about 40, you're a goner because you're not capable of working. Secondly, if you are, so that's probably the vast majority of our audience right there. Secondly, if you're a critical thinker or you evidence or expose any leadership qualities, you'll be purged. Because the last thing they want is somebody who can lead an uprising. Think this is all tinfoil hat? Okay, fine. Go back and get on the couch, turn on, The Simpsons or Kim Kardashian or some cooking channel and continue in your slumber. And we'll just wait and see. But someday when they're kicking in your door and telling you to get on the train, you're going to change your tune. You see, the goal they have for you is total enslavement. And they're working at it rapidly. Ceaselessly. Tirelessly. Aggressively. And they're not going to let up. Obama came out the other day and said, repeatedly, by the way, in speech after speech after speech after speech, echoed by Jay Carney, his propaganda minister in the White House, that these scandals are phony. Really? So, you mean to tell me that the IRS monitoring people is a phony scandal? If that's phony, then why did you come out and promise to get to the bottom of it and say to America that it's unacceptable if the IRS is acting based on ideology? You mean the 4 dead men in Benghazi and the dozens hurt whose names you won't reveal to the American public and even to Congress itself, that's a phony scandal?
Mike, that never happened.
You mean the scandal from Fast and Furious where 200 Mexicans are dead and at least we know 2 Americans are dead, that Congress has actually found your traitorous Attorney General, Eric the Traitor Holder, guilty of both civil and criminal contempt? You mean to tell me that that's a phony scandal?
Mike, you know that never happened.
How about the NSA scandal that Edward Snowden has blown wide open that you can't contain? That's a phony scandal that you're monitoring every American's internet traffic, their phone calls, everything they do?
Oh, he's just trying to get frequent flyer miles, that's all.
I see. You see, those aren't phony scandals. The only phony here is this administration, all of its sycophantic ilk, every leader of every extra-constitutional administrative agency in the nation, every ideologue who is fighting for our demise. That's phony. The lie that we are operating as a constitutional republic, the lie that we have things in control, the lie that our economy is getting better, the lie that jobs are growing, the lie that they're not wasting our money or pocketing it or giving it to their cronies. That's phony, folks. The only thing not phony going on in your world of politics right now is America's Voice Now. Because I'm determined to tell the truth until they put a bullet through my head. And I suspect that'll be my end. Or I'll die in some prison somewhere. I have and operate under no delusions. Somebody wrote in a letter to the editor in a local paper where I live, stating that guy Evans out there, he's always saying we're at war. We are at war. We're at war against evil. I'm not taking this in a biblical context. So those of you out there who are either non-religious or atheistic or just don't give a damn one way or the other, this is not a religious good versus evil. This is a universal good versus evil. Trust me, good does exist in the world and evil does exist in the world. And these people who we're fighting against, they are on the side of evil. Make no mistake about it. Their actions are evil. Their words are evil. Their thoughts, concepts, they're all evil.
They're also evil. You can almost smell them.
You can smell them like you can smell rain in the air. You can smell it like you can smell death. It's putrid and gagging. It's offensive. Death is offensive to every living being. And these people exude an aura of death. They are selling us for a promise of some future benefit and some pittance of $22,000 in their re-election campaign today. How shameful. Anthony Weiner is running for the mayor of New York. This is the guy who sexted himself right out of Congress. I don't talk about these things because they're all distractions, but I'm trying to make a point. And by the way, that is what that's all about. That's all a distraction to keep you from recognizing that, you know, they're stealing out of your wallet because you're laughing so hard you don't realize the feeling of a guy taking your wallet. And your wallet contains your freedom and your money. But you know how he's running for mayor? Well, when he resigned from Congress under scandal that he was cheating on his wife and sexting pictures of his private parts around the country to different women, when he retired, he kept the $4.5 million in his re-election campaign. And he's using that to run for mayor of New York. $4.5 million. See, when Congress people retire, or when they are kicked out, or whatever happens, however they leave, that money is theirs to keep. Not personally. They have to, they still have to follow election law. So Anthony says, what the heck, I'll run for mayor. Why shouldn't I? For $4.5 million, I can make a heck of a dent. That money was bribery money. Bribery money paid to him while he sat in the House. Bribery money, folks. If you try to bribe a police officer by handing him your driver's license along with a $50 bill, you're going to get arrested. And you should. You're better off to say to him, sir, are you a constitutional peace officer and an oath keeper? But if you hand a police officer $50 with your driver's license when he pulls you over for speeding, you're more than likely going to end up going to jail. Congress does it with impunity and immunity. And that is a travesty and a tragedy. That is skullduggery. That is the scheming, teeming putrefaction of death. The culture of death. The culture of greed. The culture of corruption. The stink of death that pervades Washington. Washington smells like death so bad, we can smell it out here in Missouri. Even against the tide of the wind. You can't miss the smell of death and corruption. The putrid stench that rises from that city. And the people that make it up. And if you think for 1 second that's relegated just to them and they don't have their eyes on you, you're a fool. Pericles said it best. Just because you don't take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics doesn't take an interest in you. I don't even know what year that was, but it was 435 BC or something. I mean, truth is truth, right? Well, truth is treason in an empire of lies. And right now, our empire is built upon lies. The general of all American intelligence, Major General Albert Burt Stubblebean, he was the head of all intelligence. You know what he says? 9/11 was a fraud. Does that make it true? I don't know. But I do know one thing. I know a lot of people lately are dying. I know a lot of people are under an enormous amount of compromising pressure and coercion to manipulate the truth. Every news organization, even those that used to be stalwarts for liberty, or at least one would think, like Fox News, which now has to be renamed as Faux News. F-A-U-X. You know, like a faux fur collar. Because apparently somebody's gotten to them. Somebody's gotten to those hosts. Somebody's gotten to the whole organization. They're pushing out more propaganda than ever before. You're listening to America's Voice Now. In our next segment, we're going to talk about a couple of other issues. But we're going to stick to this concept of privations and corruption, because that is what America needs to wake up to. And it's time, if you haven't made the decision and the choice yet, for you to stand up as a patriot and fight back. The window of opportunity is closing rapidly. We'll be right back.